Hello, welcome to the News Cabin. I'm your host, Hat on Head, going to give you three news stories today. The first one is an update. I'm going to show you a few minutes of video of Mayor Marty Walsh updating the Boston community about what is going on today, March 29th, 2020. Then I am going to read from Rhode Island what is going on there with the National Guard as they start to go door to door yesterday on Saturday to inform New Yorkers who may have come to the state that they have to self-quarantine. So I'm going to tell you about that. And then the third part is going to be from CNN. We're going to get an update from Dr. Fauci, just going to play his video about how Trump opted not to impose the quarantine on parts of New York. So this is all the news here for March 29th. Let's get right into it. Marty Walsh has got an update from Boston.
We'll start with our updates as of yesterday. There were 4,257 cases of COVID-19 in Massachusetts. There are 614 of those cases here in the city of Boston. 47 people have had full recovery, thank God. Unfortunately, 2 people in Boston have lost their life to this virus in 44 statewide. Our hearts go out to the families in this very difficult time, and we want everyone else to know that we're working around the clock to slow the spread, keep people healthy, and prevent the loss of life. We are fully committed to protecting all of our residents. Every single life is worth saving, and every single life is worth protecting. I'd like to just share a few updates with you about our work to protect our most vulnerable populations in the city of Boston, and one of those populations are people experiencing homelessness. In the past week, we had our first confirmed case of coronavirus in our homeless community. We've spent the last several days preparing for this moment when the coronavirus affects our homeless neighbors. But really, we've spent the last several years improving our ability to protect the health of our homeless population, no matter what challenges come our way. We've built one of the strongest support systems in the country for people experiencing homelessness. We're working closely with our great nonprofit partners. We've gotten thousands of people off the streets into safe, supportive housing. We've engaged with people to build trust and to make sure that they're aware of the resources that are available for them. Right now, this network is allowing us to act swiftly. Today, I can announce that we have secured hundreds of new beds for people experiencing homelessness. These additional beds will ease the burden on our shelters as they practice physical distancing, and they will provide more safe spaces for homeless individuals to safely quarantine. Suffolk University will be repurposing a dormitory building that will provide 172 new beds. This facility will be managed in collaboration with Pine Street Inn and Boston's Public Health Commission. We're also repurposing a former hospital on Commonwealth Avenue in Brighton, which will have 70 new beds. This facility will be operated by the Boston Public Health Commission in partnership with the Boston Healthcare for the Homeless. We expect to have more locations coming online in the coming days. We are working with some of our city's large institutions and property owners, and we'll continue to make sure that we have enough spaces for all of our homeless folks. I want to be clear. People in need of homeless services should not go directly to Suffolk or the new site on Comm Ave in Brighton. They should go to one of our existing shelters, which will remain open, including Pine Street Inn, Woods Mullen, Southampton Street, Boston Rescue Mission, and Rosie's Place. The Boston Public Health Commission will staff and screen individuals and determine where they should go for their treatment. This will help us ensure that everyone gets the help that they need. This has been a team effort, and it's a good use of the resources that we have. That's why that's what a strong city does. When people are in need, we come together to help them. We get creative and we figure it out. I sincerely want to thank Suffolk University for stepping up to the plate and getting these facilities ready so quickly.
Well, that was pretty interesting to hear Marty Walsh update what Boston is doing to respond to the crisis. As a graduate of Suffolk University, I thought that was cool that they were mentioned, and our response to that being a school that's right downtown and that has space, and that just, and then he talked about other universities also pitching in and helping out. And that just showed, like, Boston, the bigger industries are healthcare and education. Obviously, healthcare is tremendously involved, and everything that they're doing is being highlighted because this entire coronavirus response and everything is really coordinated through the hospitals. All right, so the reason that I'm highlighting this story is because New Yorkers who have been making their way out of New York to different places, this has been, the coronavirus, according to the numbers, New York is the hub, so it's natural for other states to want to protect themselves in a certain way from people coming from New York, but at the same time, this can create, a real dilemma in terms of how to handle it. So I'm just going to read this article. So in Westerly, Rhode Island, also as an interesting note, I was in Rhode Island just 2 days ago for work. Essential services for housekeeping, had to pick something up there. But okay, so here's the article. The Rhode Island National Guard started going door to door on Saturday in coastal areas to inform any New Yorkers who may have come to the state that they must self-quarantine for 14 days, while the governor, Gina Raimondo, expanded the mandatory self-quarantine to anyone visiting the state. Raimondo also ordered residents to stay at home with exceptions for getting food, medicines, or going to the doctor, and ordered non-essential retail businesses to close Monday until April 13 to help stop the spread of the coronavirus. She also directed realtors and hotel operators to include new requirements that any out-of-state residents must quarantine for 14 days in their purchase agreements. So this is stuff, I mean, how do you regulate movement state to state? And this is exactly what they're trying to do. So I mean, the I-95 going from Florida to Maine, I've spent so much time on the I-95. If you have any sort of blockage and you're trying, I mean, this is going to be something that we've never done, and maybe this is actually one of the first places that they're trying to set these types of things up. So state police set up a checkpoint on I-95 in Hope Valley on Friday, where drivers with New York license plates must stop and provide contact information, and were told to self-quarantine for 2 weeks. If New Yorkers don't comply, they face fines and jail time, Raimondo said, adding that that's not the goal. I want to be crystal clear about this. If you're coming to Rhode Island from New York, you are ordered into quarantine. The reason for that is because more than half of the cases of coronavirus in America are in New York, Raimondo said, adding that it's not meant to be discriminatory. Here we go. I mean, this is the response, and it seems it makes sense. You have to stop the spread of people across state lines. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo called the order reactionary and unconstitutional, saying he'd sue Rhode Island if the policy isn't rescinded, but believed they could work it out. I understand the goal, but there's a point of absurdity, and I think what Rhode Island did is at that point of absurdity, said Cuomo, a Democrat. We have to keep the ideas and the policies we implement positive rather than reactionary and emotional. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, what they did, what did it stop? Did it have any effect? If it didn't have any effect, then I think that Governor Cuomo is correct. President Donald Trump said Saturday that he had spoken with some governors and was considering some type of a quarantine to prevent people in New York and parts of New Jersey and Connecticut from traveling. Trump late Saturday, though, he tweeted that a travel advisory should be administered and not a quarantine. Trump told reporters at the White House that it would be for a short period of time if we do it at all. He said he had spoken with Governor Ron DeSantis, Republican of Florida, and Andrew Cuomo, Democrat of New York, the country's epicenter of the corona pandemic. Texas Governor Greg Abbott on Thursday joined other states in imposing quarantines on air travelers from the New York area, including New Jersey and Connecticut, and New Orleans, two places where COVID-19 is more severe. The Republicans said travelers who don't comply with the 14-day quarantine risk jail time, adding that state troopers would conduct visits to make sure people were staying put. In Rhode Island, which reported its first 2 deaths from COVID-19 on Saturday, a team of a Westerly police officer and a Guard member were visiting stately and modest coastal homes in the Westerly neighborhood of Watch Hill, collecting contact information from New Yorkers and telling them to self-quarantine. They expected to go to about 1,000 homes over a few days. All right, that's what it's looking like. This is more of an educational tool to make people aware and comply with what we are asking them to do, said Westerly, Rhode Island Police Chief Sean Lacey. We certainly hope it doesn't get to enforcement action that has to happen. Raimondo said only an estimated 50% of Rhode Islanders are complying with social distancing, with crowds spotted at a beach, groups at parks, crowds at big box stores, and house parties. As a result, she banned gatherings of more than 5 people and urged people to limit interactions to the same 5. So we'll see how all this plays out. This was an interesting article to read, just because this is really the tip of the spear here in terms of the government enforcing actions, restricting movements. These are all things that, as Americans, we kind of innately are resistant to. And at the same time, this is an unprecedented pandemic, and we have an unprecedented amount of information. Now the question is that information going to be used to have a response that makes sense? And right now it seems like we are, as a society, we have definitely stopped moving about, and I think that will definitely have an effect. The next video that I'm going to do is about Italy, about the deaths there, and I had an Italian person, a friend of mine, respond to my video and give me information, and really what happened in Italy was that they were the first ones hit, and so now, because of everything that we've done, I really do hope that we've been able to reduce the deaths, but at the same time, the damage that we can do in forcing people to stop their work, it's just really hard. So that's the article. Now we're going to go to Dr. Fauci. Here we go, Dr. Fauci. So definitely someone that has gotten the spotlight, has appeared to be very competent, has been put in a challenging position to be an intermediary between what's going on in the medical community and what Trump wants to do. It's been a very interesting thing to see him react and communicate with everyone what the response is going to be from the White House. So here's a video from him as he explains why Trump opted not to quarantine New York.
Why did the administration go with this travel advisory instead? And will this help stop the virus?
Well, I think it ultimately will help stop the virus, Jake. We had a very intensive discussions last night at the White House with the president. As you know, the original proposal was to consider seriously an enforceable quarantine. After discussions with the president, we made it clear, and he agreed, that it would be much better to do what's called a strong advisory. And the reason for that is that you don't want to get to the point where you're enforcing things that would create a big of difficulty, morale and otherwise, when you could probably accomplish the same goal.
Thanks for joining me in the news cabin. Stay safe out there. Keep your hat on your head.